Welcome back to the Smart Nonsense Podcast, where we talk about entrepreneurship, self-development, challenging norms. Pop!
And we make nerdy stuff cool.
Oh, we got a new tagline. We didn't sync on the new tagline. Yeah, I was going to go change my bios after. You make nerdy ideas cool, Pop.
Yeah. Well, your mom smelled blood. She's like,
your mom.
I thought you were building a good business in public. And then you have this tagline, you're building a shitty business in public. Do you need money this month?
That's right.
Probably.
Moms know best. They know when cash flow is negative. They know when you're building a shitty business. They know when you're having relationship problems. Mamas know best.
The QuickBooks payroll, I had that set for the first of every month. I had to delay it a month. I don't want to put that sort of pressure on the bank account. We'll see. It don't matter.
Hey,
but
it don't matter. We're trying to get a little bit of funding from this company called Cap Chase. Like a 1 month of runway. That'd be nice.
Oh, dude. Hey, I don't really know what I want to talk about this podcast, and that's a great way to keep people hooked. But I got a bunch of little nuggets to start. All right?
Drop them, sprinkle them.
You want some
breadcrumbs. I want them.
Dude, okay, well, here, I'm just ripping through Twitter, and I got some juicy accounts that were just
you spend 8 hours on your phone a day.
Yeah, what am I up to, dude? I don't know. I'm probably better now, but it's like me. I've just been listening to Palmer Luckey for like 5 hours a day for the last 3 days.
You gotta be careful
about Andrew. Dude, it's like, I love the people when they just don't give a fuck. And you're like, teach me about the world because I trust you. I'm like, And then I was listening to his co-founder, who also works at Founders Fund. And so Founders Fund has Peter Thiel, Keith Raboy, Mike Solana, like all these popular people. And he's like, yeah, dude, you just got to get the people on the spectrum. It's like everyone on the spectrum doesn't give a shit about what the world thinks about them. And they'll just give you the straight truth. And
were they talking the autism spectrum or like actually like the founder spectrum? Well, they are correlated.
No, autism spectrum.
Yeah.
Because this one questioner, I forget the name of the podcast, but Paradox podcast, it was saying how it's like, is it innate or is it learned to be this like original thinker? He's like, honestly, it's pretty innate because they just got Asperger's and it kind of rips. It's like, yeah. If you can just find the blend, there you go. All right, you want to learn about a fucking crazy animal, dude? All right,
I suppose.
And I just see this toad, and it's like, this is the Pebble Toad. I'm like, okay, I like the name Pebble Toad. That's kind of cute. It's like, it's in South America. And so what it does is it has a defense mechanism unlike any other toad or animal. So it climbs, and it's in like the Andes, right? So it's climbing a mountain. But its number one predator is a tarantula. Tarantulas are bad. They're dangerous. So it shows a video of this toad climbing the side of like a volcanic looking mountain. And then the tarantula, you just see a little bit of those 2 prongs come over the top. Toad bundles up and just tumbles down the mountain. It's nuts, dude. It's just like, I don't know. You go in fetal position and you just see this thing bouncing and bouncing and bouncing down. And it just lands in a little puddle. And then it just skirts.
The Pebble Toad rollover?
Yeah.
Oh, BBC, the tale of the Pebble Toad and the spider. Do we do B-roll on these? Should people go on YouTube?
On clips, we'll do them. We might do them on YouTube. I don't know what we'll do on YouTube.
This is a Pebble Toad. That's David Attenborough.
The thing doesn't know how to jump, so it just rolls.
Oh, dude.
Look at it tumble, dude.
I'm watching a Pebble Toad tumble. Oh, this feels like the horseshoe crab. I feel like your specialty might be obscure animal kingdom knowledge. That's crazy. The problem with these, Pop, is this is an audio podcast. I mean, we could claim to be video, but we're not getting your full superpower translated.
No, dude, that's why you got to tune in for the clips.
And you got to use your imagination.
Yeah, you know what? It just happens to be that way. I just want to tell you things about animals. You look it up in your own free time. Another one, I was on Netflix a while back, and it's about the walrus. I don't really have a story. I just remember this thinking about the Pebble Toad right now. But these walruses, for some reason, there were a bunch of them on this island, and now they're like, "Oh, I want some sunlight. I want like open space." So they start climbing this cliff. And it's a steep cliff, and so you get these walruses. They have flippers, dude, and they're scaling like a 5'7" mountain. If you're a climber, you might know what that means. I don't even know if that's right, but I remember it. It's the grade. It's a steep ass thing. And so I'm like, hey, that's probably not good because a walrus weighs like a car. So you got this thing trying to scale a mountain, and all of a sudden, I mean, I guess I'm going to spoil our planet. The things just start tumbling down the mountain. like the Pebble Toad, but without like evolutionary reason to tumble. And now it's just a giant car crash. Oh, I got a transition.
If I could pull one quote, we don't do good transitions. If I could pull one quote from that, it would be, "A walrus weighs a car." It's like,
I don't even know
that's
how
your
that's
brain
one of those
works.
Nike logos. That's totally wrong. They're
Our best
probably
clip
like
of all
500
time.
pounds, which is like,
Okay, give me your transition.
well,
Transition us out of here.
It's actually a brutal video. If you probably don't want to watch it because it's like a blubbery animal hurtling down hundreds of feet of cliff and just smashing at the bottom, and then they're just suffer. Like they don't die; they're just like half
Oh.
dead. So then they slowly die, and you just hear. But that's our
No.
planet, dude. That's nature. So get used to it. It's just like the book that Amelia made.
Oh.
For some nature. Here's my transition, dude. Cars crashing. How about something even crazier? You know what they used to
tunneling?
do? Quantum tunneling?
Go on.
No, dude. Hey, let me rip for like 15 minutes by myself. Then I'll let you chime in. Because I don't really have like a teach it to me. I just have a bunch of nuggets and then I want to talk about Andrew. But okay. So it's like back in the late 1800s. So like Spanish Civil War time, let's call it 1896. People were bored as shit. They didn't have like monster truck rallies or like crazy derbies where, I don't know, trucks would go and smash and go fast and everything. But people needed that outlet. So what they do at these circuses or festivals, this one guy actually, Crush, he started it. He's like, yo, come down to the Crash at Crush. And he basically invented this little town. 40,000 people came in to watch two steam engine trains smash into each other. And I'm like, dude. So there,
Sign me up.
These beasts of train, and everyone's like fucking smashing trains into each other. That sounds sick. Like normally they go in the same direction on the track. Let's just point them at each other, opposite directions. So they get going. It gets up to like 50 miles an hour, and you get the conductor, because it's like there's no AI back then. You don't have anything. It's just a dude hauling like coal into the thing, and he's like, "Fuck, it's getting close," and he bails at 50 miles an hour, and then these things smash into each other. And everyone's like, oh, it's just a monster truck collision, right? But no, they got giant boilers. So these boilers just exploded through shrapnel, and the crowd cut like an insane amount of people. 2 people died just from being in the crowd and getting rocketed. And then people right after the explosion, they were stoked and they all ran to the trains to get their little souvenirs. And then like for 30 years, they just kept smashing trains in festivals all around the country.
Where do you find these?
Dude, Twitter. This one came from Silent Movie. I guess I'll send it to you because you don't get the B-roll. But this one wasn't the one that exploded with the boilers. Normally they don't do that.
Oh, don't start with the stutters. Don't start with the stutters,
I know,
Pop.
dude.
People got to subscribe for the stutters. Listen to last episode. And let me get the B-roll.
I got another animal one if you want an animal one.
Rip it, Pop. It's so bizarre to me. It's 1 p.m. where you are. And this
I got
this is what you've done
too, but
today.
the plant's not as fun.
You haven't been clothed. You've thought about
what I would
monster
do?
trucks and animals, and it's 1:17 p.m. Eastern.
Fuck yeah, dude. That's the perfect time to rip. I was out sunbathing and I saw one of those little, the helicopter plants. I guess it comes from a maple tree. The little seeds go down And I'm like, that's sick. I used to catch those as a kid. And then I'm like, oh, that's a seed. I didn't realize it was a seed. I'm like, oh, the plant's just trying to disperse its seed. I'm like, what are the ways a plant can disperse its seed? It's like, well, one way is by animals, and they can eat it. That's a fruit. Or it can prick them, and it stays on them. Or water can transport it. That's a coconut. Sorry, talking this voice.
Wait, how does
Or
the coconut do?
It's
The seed is in the
like
water?
for coastal plants, it'll drop in a river or a stream or the ocean, and it'll just end up on an island in the middle of nowhere. That's why
Is the
palm
coconut the
trees are
seed?
everywhere. The coconut's the seed.
Wow.
Or you got wind. Wind, that thing will just I don't know what the little dandelion things are, and that just go everywhere, spreading seed. Fires can trigger some of them to open up and go, but if you get too many fires in a row, it's going to burn the plant before it makes a tree. And
That's like a virus.
gravity is a simple one. You just get like a chestnut, and that shit just drops down and explodes, and the seed's on the ground now. Just a lot of different ways nature spreads its seed. There you go. Hey, how about the
Smart
animal
Nonsense,
one,
where we talk about entrepreneurship, self-development, and plants.
and reptiles, dude. I got a reptile for you. So
I don't even remember what I brought. I don't even remember what I brought to this.
Confuse you lose, baby. I'll spin you in circles, see where you go. So what happened is I was watching this video, and there's a how do I phrase this? Okay, what happens? Because like occasionally the weather gets cold as shit, and I kind of asked you about this with the crabs. Like, what do crabs do in the winter? It's like, what happens if you're now an alligator or a crocodile, and you just suddenly it gets cold as shit? Like, they have alligators in like North Carolina, so what happens when it gets really cold and like water can even freeze there? Well, what happens with the alligator? You know what happens?
Well, water can only freeze at the top. So I guess it depends on how deep the pond or the swamp is. But if it's a swamp, it's probably not going to freeze.
Well, it freezes. It freezes at the top, but you're right. It's warmer in the water. And that's why you sometimes see fishes, if you ever do ice skating, going around underneath. Same thing with the alligator. It's like alligators, they can hold their breath up to like 24 hours, which is pretty nuts. But if there's a cold snap that's like a whole weekend long, you want to breathe and not die. So if you can't find some warm mud to hide in, they'll just get their snout right out of the water. And so you'll have a frozen lake with just an alligator snout poking through the top.
That's sick.
Their whole body underneath. And they go into this thing. It's like hibernation. That's a polar bear. For reptiles, it's called brumation. So their body just shuts down and goes to mini hibernation to survive, where they don't really have a lot of internal digestion and stuff. So they just shut down and hang out there. And that's why if you're in the south and there's a cold snap, you'll see a bunch of snouts poking out the water. Be like, he's just trying to survive.
God, there's
but
a lot
give them
there.
a couple days and they'll die. So hopefully that doesn't happen.
What's a cold snap? I've never heard that before.
Snap, dude. Cold, real
quick.
Ice snap. Stutter.
I heard Neil deGrasse Tyson on Joe Rogan yesterday. Technically, you said fishes. That's correct. Multiple plural. Many different kinds of fishes. Yeah, that was sick.
Yeah, dude.
Also on this note, think about this. If ice, this is what Neil deGrasse Tyson were saying. If ice were denser than water, life as we know it underwater would be extinct every single winter, because the ice at the top forms from the cold air above. If ice were denser than water, that would sink all the way to the bottom, and it'd be ice down there. And then the next layer would freeze, and that would sink all the way to the bottom. And then the next layer would freeze, and that would sink all the way to the bottom. And all the fish would have to go to the top, and then they'd dry freeze at the top. So thank God ice is less dense than water.
Right. It's something about like water's at its least dense at like 4 degrees above freezing, or there's some little quirk where it's not like at freezing when it's the most or least dense. I don't know, but maybe that has to do with ice, and that's why it forms. Hey, that's for another week of Explain It to Me Like I'm 5. Is that what this week is? I don't know. I'm just talking about animals and seeds. You got something for me? Because I got some more stuff.
Let's see. What else? You probably got another dozen. Mine are kind of serious. These have been fun, Pop.
All right, I got another fun one for you. Fuck your points, dude. Maybe this is just our thing, just nuggets. There's never any sort of
just
underlying
a dozen nuggets.
You know what's crazy? All right, everyone's bitching about how many people are on the planet, and we're all trying to like make sure we don't use too many resources, and it's this big like scarcity mindset. But then we listen to Elon Musk, and he's like, dude, just take a bit of Texas, throw a bunch of solar panels on it, and we'll be self-sustaining. Like, that's all you need. Easier said than done, but it's not this crazy issue. And then you get people recycling and using, I don't know, all this stuff, and it's like, dude, that's not it.
You know what's interesting about that?
What?
Is it's kind of like a hindsight is 2020. So similar to the virus, when it was blowing up at the beginning of the virus and it was going exponential, we're like, there's no end in sight. Our brains don't know how exponentials work. We're like, oh my God, every single person on the planet is going to die of this thing. Similarly, this was climate science like a dozen years ago. We were on that like exponential human population growth. And now everyone's stuck in that way of thinking. We're like, if we continue on this exponential, we're going to be out of resources. But now it's like, oh, we've gone the other way. It's kind of like coming out of the pandemic. It's like, now we have an underpopulation problem. We made all these policy things when we were going exponential with population, and now it's just hard to unwind all these like thoughts and mind viruses, like the paper straws.
That's where like I've never, starting freshman year, I read Freakonomics, and it's like, dude, all these people are bitching about the climate. Like, tech's so good. If there's a real issue, that's going to draw the smartest minds there, and then we're going to solve the problem. Like, we're really good. If we wanted to, we could change the temperature of the earth pretty easily. Like, that was
if the incentives were, yeah.
It's like, I just never worried about oh, my stutter, dude.
Watch it. It could be stress induced.
Dude.
It could be stress induced.
It could be. I never worried about climate change stuff beyond what I could control. And I'm like, well, me recycling isn't really going to change anything as long as I'm not like polluting. I'll avoid that. But it's like in the book, it said there's a bunch of simple solutions. Like we could just have a tube running up to the atmosphere and release a very little amount of methane, and that'll envelop the globe and just put like a little shade. So not as much light gets through and heats the oceans and fucks up the planet that way. So it's like all these solutions they were just ripping off. Or you just, even a more complex one is like the oceans don't really have clouds over them, because to have a cloud, you need particulates in the atmosphere for the water molecules to condense onto. So basically all the sunlight just absorbs in the ocean, and it heats the whole planet. It's like, oh, if we can just seed clouds over the oceans by just having these little machines turn up water, like their little job is just, they're autonomous. They run around and they just churn up water to make clouds over the ocean, reflect the sunlight. That'd solve a lot of our problems there. So all these solutions, I'm like, I'm just not going to care about it.
And what I think is so interesting is like people our age are like, I don't want to have kids. I can't bring people into this mess. You know, it's a disaster. And that comes from this idea of like, when we were in middle school and it was like, oh, if we have 400 parts per million CO2 in the atmosphere, the world as we know it will fall apart. Yeah. It was like, that was like our coming of age. And now it's about unwinding it.
Well, that's why you got to hit both sides. You're just like, oh, this is a point that everyone believes. Let me just check that to make sure there's no like strong counter arguments. And that's actually what someone said. It's like when anyone would argue, oh, 99% of climate scientists agree that this is a problem. It's like, well, everyone in Newton's day probably disagreed with Newton or Galileo. Like, they're not the consensus. Science changes just from one person, one visionary that sees the world differently. So it's like all that argument just goes out the window, because it's like, no, you just need the one that sees it differently to show you the step change in how everyone's thinking. It's the Peter Thiel types. But my point's not really like that. My point is the whole world, the whole population could be condensed into New York City, just standing side by side, not even stacking people, just New York City. And Tim Urban put out this graph, or not graph, this image, I guess,
Drawing.
where he's like, all right, so take, maybe I'll send it to you because it'll make it easier for you.
I saw it.
Oh, you saw it? Okay.
I seen it.
So it's like, take Manhattan, and you'll just pack all of North America and Central America into Manhattan. It's like Europe, we'll throw all of them in the Bronx. We'll have I don't know, like Africa, South America, and Australia. I don't know, they call it Oceania. We'll pack them into Brooklyn. We'll have Queens, throw Japan, India, China, and then the rest of Asia we'll just throw in Staten Island.
He had a funny caption on the Queens one. It was like, for all the Asians not currently in Queens.
Yeah,
Queens
all
is
Asia
super
that's not
Chinese.
And I'm like, that's so crazy to me, where everyone's freaking out about population, and Elon Musk is like, no, we could have 10 times the population we now have. We just have to solve the energy issue, probably food too, but like all that comes from energy.
No,
solve energy.
Well, yeah,
we have so much land.
We have Friedberg talks about this. Like, I don't know how many orders of magnitude of food we have for everyone on Earth. It's a distribution problem. We can't get it to everyone. Slam them in Manhattan, baby. Drop the food on them.
They say 40% of food is just wasted. Actually, that was another thing too from the Rory Sutherland. He's like, I'm gonna fuck up the stats, but call it around to similar number. Like 50% of all electricity is just lost. Like from you generating the electricity to getting it to your home, and all the wires and just, I don't know, all the friction, heat loss, whatever it is, we're losing most of the electricity that we make, which is just nuts. So he's like, let's just capture that better.
The car engine's like 20% efficient.
Right.
You want to know Nugget Pop?
Okay.
Yeah, hey, we're going contrarian today. GMOs. I don't know. I don't know a ton about the history, but it's like, oh, there's this icky idea of like GMOs, genetically modified organisms. It's like GMOs solved the food crisis in the 70s. That's it. That's the nugget. We now have enough food because of GMOs.
I didn't even know there was a food crisis in the 70s.
That's why we can't get into the history, Pop.
Don't get in the weeds, dude. Only research. Hey, you got something? Because then I got a lot of
drawing. You said drawing. I've been waiting to transition. This is not a good one, Pop. Why do we call a painting when it's already done?
You doing a stand-up routine? Painted? You want a painted?
I want a painted. No, I learned this new mechanism. It's called a gerund. It's for when you turn a verb into a noun. So drawing, painting, screening.
In high school,
that's what I come with.
I got like an 1800.
Ooh.
Hold on, now I'm thinking about how this works. I forget. I got like a really bad score on my SAT, relatively speaking to where I wanted to go, and so I'm like, oh fuck, I got to pay for a class or something. I spent like $800, which is a lot of money back then, to go to this class. Didn't learn a single thing. Only learned what a gerund was. I'm like,
fuck yeah,
ing
dude.
is a gerund. And then I just read a bunch of books on my own and did a lot better. So it's like,
wait, is it a gerund when it becomes a noun, or is ing just the gerund?
Well, it's like camping. That's a noun. You mean?
But I mean, is the ing camping the gerund, or is the verb to noun the gerund? I didn't go deep enough.
I didn't.
Here we go, Pop. A gerund, a form that is derived from a verb, but that functions as a noun. Dana's trying to get me lunch. That's nice of her. A form that is derived from a verb, but that functions as a noun. Okay, so
hey,
that's
how
the
about
gerund.
that? We all learn things. Should be a painted. You know what's a bummer? Speaking about like after the fact paintings. Van Gogh died a loser.
Yeah.
No one bought his paintings ever. I think he tried to sell a couple of them. No one really bought them, and then it just got passed around his family. And then I don't know if it was like his sister's side of the family or something ended up selling a bunch of them, and then he was super successful after he died. And I'm like, that's kind of a bummer, dude. That's why.
Yeah, I read a good book about him. This was so interesting about Van Gogh is like he did a million odd jobs before he landed on painting. He was like, he worked at an art dealer. He became a preacher boy. He became like, he worked at a bookshop, like all these things, failure, 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 failure. And then when he was like 34, he made his first painting. Oh, first he made some drawings, and then he tried to go to art school. They were like, you suck. No, you can't come to art school. And then he made like his
why are you
first
doing
paintings.
so many squiggles and swirls? He's like, I like them.
He made his first paintings at like 34 or 35, dies at 37. So it's like one of the most famous painters of all time painted for 2 years. That's crazy to me. This is when we were like in the Kevin Kelly, learning about voluntary simplicity. Like, you don't need a job till your 30s, just explore. It actually might have been him talking about Van Gogh. I was like, holy crap. Van Gogh didn't start painting till he was 34 or something crazy, or didn't get decently known for it until 34.
Hey,
You
don't
got
go
time.
to the immersive exhibit for a first date.
Oh,
Not
yeah, too
good,
loud.
dude.
Too
Spent
loud.
$200 and didn't even
You know
get to
why?
talk.
You know why human babies are so ill prepared for the world when they come out the womb?
Because they were just breathing water for 9 months.
Yeah, hiccups come from that. Did you know that?
No. You wanna
The
explain that to me?
transition from the transition from breathing water in the, not water, but like birthing fluids in the womb.
How?
Listen to us. Birthing fluids in the womb to breathing air. Your diaphragm like has to make that transition. And so we still have hiccups. We don't know why we have them. We don't know why they persist, but it's from that process.
Oh, is that why they say drink water really fast when you have hiccups? And
Maybe.
they say, I think I Googled it like 10 years ago.
Maybe. Human babies, why do they come out? So you ever seen a giraffe be born? They come out walking. They come out running, galloping.
That's sick, dude. Too bad they didn't figure out the brain thing. That was just a Homo sapien.
They figured out the neck thing so that they can eat from trees. Pop,
smash each other, dude. Have you seen giraffes fighting?
Yeah, and lick salt off the ground. You should look that up too. They like splay out.
Oh yeah, dude.
Bring their neck all the way down.
What a sick animal.
Human babies. So we kept getting smarter and smarter and smarter. So our brains were growing. And if your brain grows, your head grows. Now, we also
sense.
walk.
What would happen if it didn't grow, dude? That'd be a... Sorry, I'm a child. Dude.
We also
Give me
walk
Neutron.
upright. So our hips over the years, over the eons, have gotten narrower and narrower. So I think like the average gestation period for a mammal is something like 1.5 years or 2 years. And for humans, it's 9 months.
Hey, I'm 5, dude. Is that
gestation?
What's gestation?
5-year-olds don't talk about the birds and the bees, Pop.
I did, dude.
We gotta grow up, dude. We've got to grow up. Gestation. The point at which, no, come on, 5 years old. 5 years old. It's the period the mother is pregnant.
And it's normally 1.5 years?
I think on average for like a mammal. But for humans, it's 9 months.
Spit 'em
That's
out,
why we
dude.
come out like, and we can't walk. Because if it were any longer than 9 months, birthing would be impossible. The head is too big. The hips are too narrow.
Oh, so because we were walking, we had to spit them out sooner.
Yeah, and they're underdeveloped. But
Is that...
we make
So
up
what
for that
happens-
underdevelopment in our socialization as a species. We have so much protection from community that like the baby can be brain dead for 2 years instead of coming out walking.
Oh, so you're saying if we didn't walk and have these, well, you said the hips got skinnier or fatter?
Narrower. So neither of those.
It's a C. Yeah, I don't really know what I was gonna go for there.
So that's it.
I really
That's how mine go. That's how my nuggets go. I read about that in Robin Dunbar's book. Wait, what's it called? It's a good one. How many friends does one person need? Yeah.
I think someone said 5 recently. They're like, yo, just have 5 kick-ass friends, and that's a life.
No, Pop. That wasn't a question. That was the book.
Well, I'm giving you the answer.
I know.
You don't have to read the book.
You got any more nuggets?
Not really a nugget, dude. You want to go on a journey with me, though?
A journey. 30 minutes in, a journey?
Well,
let me give you a quick one.
I didn't know we talk about plants and childbirth and giraffe birth for so long. But
a journey. What is this
dude.
Journey about?
Gestation, brumation, gerunds. Where do I start?
You need a transition?
Incentives? I could start in incentives, I guess.
Oh, is the journey Andoril?
Kind of, not really. I don't know. It's all over the place. I've just had like 5 hours of this dude in my ear, and I'm like, there's some interesting journey
all right,
nuggets all over the place. Let's go collecting them. So, all right, picture your Palmer Lucky, right? You're 14. You get into VR. You're learning all about it. You're homeschooled, so your parents.
Wait, I have a question. I have a question. Is this journey going to be lost because we're 31 minutes into this episode? Isn't that why we started doing the format 5 days a week? Imagine 31 minutes in to explain it like I'm 5. Imagine your Palmer Lucky. Is that what you're telling me?
Yeah, it is pretty deep. Maybe this is I would like to collect my thoughts because I didn't really.
Let's hit it tomorrow. And then people got to subscribe.
What's funny is I wrote 5. Well, you can't see. I wrote 5 nuggets at the start just to like give myself more time so that we could stretch this into a full episode.
Synthesize.
But those nuggets turn into it, and we learned about everything.
Funny how that works. Well, I hope the audience learned a thing or two today because I sure did.
Give us 2 years of podcasting and we get worse at talking.
Yeah.
Gordaloo,
Gordaloo, dude.